Hello, hello. I'm Rich Oceguera, and welcome to this week's edition of The Divine Urge. And I'm very, very excited because we have a super special guest who's joining us today. And as soon as we start having this conversation, I think you will agree that you're going to be really glad that you were here to be to be a part of today's show. So, the divine urge, what is this thing? It is an exploration of the business of making a difference. And I am really curious about the people in the world who are making a positive impact. Folks who trusted the promptings, their intuition, the inner knowing in their hearts and in their souls to unleash their gifts, to face their fears, and to dare to make a difference in their world. And so I bring onto the show spiritual entrepreneurs, conscious creative artists of all stripes, and also visionary change makers. And today is no exception to that. Today's guest is Isabel Hunt, and she has, wow, I could spend the whole hour talking about all the things that she does. So I'll just list a few and then we'll jump into the actual conversation so she can tell us what she does. But she's a sociologist. She is a highly trained transformation coach. She is a filmmaker, and we're going to get a taste of that as well. And she also has a very special superpower that we're going to talk about as well. And let's just say for now that it is colorful. So, without any further ado, let me introduce to you my new friend. We just physically met for the first time. We've been Facebook friends for I don't know how long, but we're finally meeting in the flesh, so to speak, thanks to technology. Let's welcome on the show Isabel Hunt.
Thank you so much. I love the intro. Thank you so
Yeah,
much
well,
for having me.
well, Isabel, welcome to the Divine Urge, and all of you who are joining us right now for the live broadcast, welcome. And those of you who are watching this as a recording or possibly a podcast at some point, welcome to you too. We appreciate that you're here. Hi.
Hi.
So you're coming to us from Indianapolis, you said.
Yes, I am. The
Awesome.
stormy, kind of windy weather right now.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you for being here. And I want to just kind of jump in with finding out a little bit about one aspect of what you do in the world, which is you are a sociologist. That's part of your training. And I'm really curious about that, maybe because on my long list of things that I want to be when I grow up, I think that's on the list because I'm fascinated by human behavior, and I'm curious to know how did you go down that path? What led you to that area?
Oh, that goes far back, far back, far back. I grew up in East Germany behind the wall. Um,
Hmm.
and growing up, my dad was never allowed to get a university degree because he was part of a church, and that was under communism. You were not allowed to get higher education. And he was still very interested in youth work and just working with different people. So he always had a bunch of books about sociology and psychology around. And so I started to read his books. I was just really interested. And I've always was fascinated in other people. Like, who are they? What makes them them? And when the wall came down, I was about 7, and my dad, now I told you my age. Um, and my dad was actually able to start social work. And when he studied, it felt like I had to study too. And so over many years, I just kind of took his books and I studied with him kind of the topic of psychology and sociology. And when I was old enough to pick the college at 16, 17, I sent letters to the universities to send me examples of the studies. And so they always gave me a little pamphlet. It was really awesome. And so I was able to work through some of the classwork and I just loved it. And then I came to the US after I graduated from high school. I came to the US because I had this weird dream where I was standing on stage speaking English in front of thousands of people. And I never wanted to go to the US because I love Europe. I love my country. So why would I leave it? I'm all my family there, right? But something just urged, there was this really deep urge, almost like I need to go home. And when I came to the US for the first time, I lived in DC for a year. It really felt like I was coming home. I was
Mm.
here before. Within a year, I was able to speak the English language fluently, which I
Wow.
really sucked at during school, like really sucked at, to the point where my teacher said, "Are you sure you want to go? I don't think it's a good idea." I'm like, "Oh no, I'm going." So within a year, I picked up really, really fast. I felt very comfortable in the country itself. But then I had to go back due to visa issues. And the whole time I had this thought in my mind, I need to go back. I need to go back. What is the best way to go back? And unfortunately, I thought it would be by studying economics because this would give me an opportunity to get a job, international relations, yada, yada, yada. Well, I got kicked out after 2 years because I failed too many. I just failed too many exams. And then I started over and I was like, okay, there's nothing else left that really interests me besides sociology and psychology. And so I started over and really got into sociology, in particular, social science, psychology. And when I started, I was like, why did I not do this in the first place? Because for years I have been in that topic in particular. And I ran through it in 3 years. And after 3 years, I worked with international students, which I absolutely loved, like really loved the work with them. Especially that I got to speak English with most of them, even at our German university. And then I came back when I was 26 and got married to the love of my life. We have been married for 10 years and have a little son who is 6 now.
And he
Yeah.
plays the violin.
And he does play the violin, yes. And he's actually in his room right now doing quiet time, or even he may even be napping, but he's really good at letting me do the work. When the door's closed, he won't come in. He's awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So you studied sociology,
Mhm.
I know that for you, the whole topic of human connection
Yeah.
is part of your message,
Yes.
and I'm curious um, how that how that transition took place. Obviously, sociology is about the study of
Human
human
behavior.
behavior,
Yes.
um, but you took it into a more specific area
Mhm.
around what why people struggle with connection to themselves and certainly to other people. So
Yes.
how did that unfold for you?
hmm While I was studying sociology, I got a little annoyed by it. It was just too theoretical. It was too much one, two, three, too much. This is the group that we call this, and people who show these signs go into this box. And I always felt that it was too narrowed down. And over the years, I mean, we have the study of sociology for many, many, many years now, hundreds of years probably. I don't even know the history really, but for hundreds of years probably. And with each generation, we add more boxes, more labels. And at some point studying, I was like, okay, there must be more to this. Why do we just talk about empirical studies? How do people fit in? How can we change this, societies and countries? And, was all those really like one, two, three steps. And I got annoyed by it. And I didn't know why until I actually came to the US and as an immigrant, I made a different experience in this country. It's just really different when you come here and you need to try to find your way. And within that experience, I started to have a real strong and intense identity crisis when I came here. I didn't feel German. I didn't feel American. I just
Mm.
didn't feel like I was able to fit in anywhere. And it almost broke me to the point where I was talking to my coach and I said, I don't think I should be here. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't feel like I fit anywhere in. And I still don't fit anywhere in, but that's a different reason now why. And he helped me through this identity crisis because of my calling and the purpose why I'm here, I am not meant to relate to a specific culture or a specific country. I always say I'm not my culture, I am a world citizen. And that's where I feel at home. And once I broadened the picture of where I fit in within the entire constellation, I understood that we have narrowed down labels to the point where we suffocate people, where we
Mm,
suffocate groups of people, where we suffocate ourselves, but we still carry it around because it feels really comfortable. In many ways, we have been um, convinced that this is part of our identity, that we need to wear that
yeah.
identity. And so when once I open up the picture of world citizen, a lot of those labels just fell away from me, and I realized how free I was able to feel and how I was able to connect to people from everywhere. I have friends almost probably in every country if it were to come down to it. And I would love to actually have them all together, but it's another story.
Yeah.
And so I really just dug a little deeper and I was looking at what is missing, especially in the field of sociology, psychology, where everything is just so narrowed down. And it
Yeah.
was spirituality,
Yep.
the spiritual side of it. And I know we try to separate politics from religion, from the state, and, you know, all those separations because they can't intertwine. And I realized that the spiritual side of it, because we have taken it out of everything, and we're not talking religion, we're really talking spirituality, an understanding of connectedness, of oneness, of a divine flow, of a soul's purpose.
Hmm.
Because we have taken that out, we've become strangers, not just to each other, but especially to ourselves. And that's where
Yeah.
I wanted to go deeper with my work.
Yeah, I love that. You were making me think of a time, sometime last year. I was in New York City. I used to live there for 18 years, and I go back as often as I can for work and to re-energize and like my creativity. Like
Really? That
go
happens in New York. I lived there for a
for
few months
me.
and it was enough for me.
It's a special place. It takes us, yes, yeah, 18
Yeah.
years I was there, and
Wow.
so now I live in the exact opposite energy of San Diego, which is like completely low key.
Mhm.
But I was sitting in a restaurant and just observing, everyone shuffling back and forth on the street, and this imagery of bubbles came up, and
Mm.
how we live, it's what you were just saying, we live in our bubble of how we think the world is and who we think that we
Yeah.
are and who we are in that world. And I was thinking about how, in San Diego, in New York, uh, still when I go there, there's very specific places that I go because it's what I know, it's
Mhm.
where I went, it's what makes me feel at home, and it's what I can relate to.
Right.
And even on my visits, where I technically am a tourist, um,
Right.
I could go anywhere, but yet I find myself in these same patterns, these bubbles. And then here in San Diego, I'm now here for 5 years, and now I have very specific and established
Mhm.
bubbles, with certain people and certain places and certain routes to each destination. And
Right.
ever since having that realization, I try to create different ways and different paths so it can experience different things. But we get so locked in to these patterns, and I know part of what you work on with your clients, and it seems from what I've seen of the movie that you have, and we're going to talk about that soon, is you're zeroing in on the ways that we fear each other,
Mhm.
the beliefs, the judgments, the patterns that we create and also that we inherit from our family systems. Um, and I also believe ancestrally.
Yep.
Uh, so, how is it that even though we know that we might have beliefs that cause separation, and that it's probably not really great for us, but we stay in those rather than breaking through? Like, why does that happen?
I know you asked me this question before, so I came prepared because people learn with visuals. Okay, so watch
Great.
out. Um, okay, hold on. I need to take my jacket off because we're going to make this real visual right now.
All right. I
I
like it.
have different colors of jackets. So, for example, this is, let's say, our historical image that we carry around that is imprinted into our DNA. It feels nice, nice color, it feels nice and warm. And then we come and then we learn all those things from our parents and from society. So we have all the expectations. Let's see if I fit in. Um, all the expectations, and we wear that too. And we know that over time, even if it's a little tight, but hey, we fit in. Like we can make this work. That feels not too bad. And then we add some more expectations that we learn everything, and then we add that to it. And then it just continues. I don't know if I can really fit in. Like they're getting a little tight now. But I could add more to it if I wanted to. And even though it feels uncomfortable, like right now it's tight, I feel like I might rip the one on the top. But over time, you become used to it. It's just like you get used to certain pain.
Yes.
It just becomes part of your nature. It becomes part of who you are and how you communicate with the outside world, even if it's just a way to connect with other people who feel as tight as you do. I'm like, oh yeah, my skin is itching too. Like, oh my gosh, like we find that commonality in how we relate to each other with all the baggage that we carry around, even though it's tight or it hurts, or you might just actually break something. So at some point we just become really comfortable, and then you have other people in front of you that wear as many layers as you do, but because every layer has a different frequency, we connect to that within a different emotional intensity. That's why I love the different colors, because every frequency is also related to a specific color. So then they talk to us and suddenly they point out the blue in this sweater and say, this doesn't look great. And you get really angry because suddenly they are connecting to that layer of what you have already created as part of your identity. How dare you question me on this color? It's a beautiful color. And then someone else comes along and questions you on the yellow. That doesn't look good on you. Like, you shouldn't wear that. That just makes you look pale, whatever it is. And I'm like, but it's my favorite color. It actually really is. So it's my favorite color. How dare you like question my taste of fashion, even though someone might just trigger it, And so within that mindset, we are always at an alert state, always like, oh, do not question the layers that I'm wearing. It might be 90 degrees outside, but I feel pretty comfortable with those 10 layers that I'm wearing. So don't question it. I might sweat like a pig and you may see it, but that doesn't matter. It still makes me me. It's just me authentically, right? It's just authentically me, even though I really, on a really deep level, I really don't like it. I just want to be free. But again, people who call that out, suddenly you would have to notice, like, hey, maybe this actually really doesn't look good on me. And then you notice that there is more in your closet that looks like that, and you would have to clean out all your closet, and then there's nothing left to wear. What to do with it? And so I always say, even in the documentary we were talking about it, it takes very strong people to take off the layers, to tear down the walls, and then create something new. And very few people are willing to get to the point of total breakdown so that they can really see the heart of the matter and understand their soul's journey. And now I'm going to really take this off because it is warm. So
yes, get comfortable again.
but it is a good visual for people to
I love it.
understand why it triggers us, why certain things that have become so normal for us, even if we consider, like for me, for many, many years, I fit myself into the box of immigrant.
Yeah.
And there are specific stigmas and characteristics that are connected to that label. And to be honest, when I started out with this work, especially when I was on stage or when I did interviews, and I wasn't quite confident with the way I responded to something, I always pointed it back to, well, English isn't my first language, so just excuse that. I always use the immigrant label to to it's like your wild card. Like, you have to treat me a certain way, or when we fight for equality, oh yeah, this is what I identify with, so here's my wild card, because I will fight for that. This is what I am going to identify with, and I'm going to use it. And when we have to give those labels up and those wild cards, it's painful, because suddenly it's like, darn it, we're naked. I don't have anything to defend myself anymore. So what am I supposed to do? We lose a sense of purpose and calling, because we have forgotten that we actually all have the same purpose in this world, and that is understanding oneness. How are we connected with each other? Why are we connected, and how does it fit in the overall divine picture? And we've lost track of that. And this is how I always try to explain it to people. Like, as you can tell, I'm very visual. I love visuals and
Yeah,
pictures
that
to
I
make it
love.
clear.
That was perfect. I love that you did that. Wow, so you're just making me think of of my labels, of the things that I've identified with and have fought for over time. Especially being a gay man, a good chunk of my life has been fighting. And even the language we use, right?
Right.
Fighting for equality. It's a war, and
It gives you purpose.
yes.
And it's honorable. On one side, there's just a really fine line. There's this line between, we need this awareness, we need to
Yep.
call it out as it is. And then the other line, what if I wouldn't have to fight for that anymore? Does it feel
Right.
like something has been taken away from me?
Right, and I think that's sort of the, I guess the underlying point,
Mm-hmm.
right, is
Mm-hmm.
if I'm gonna even be bold to say, when
Yes.
humanity is able to let go of all of these boxes and bubbles and labels and definitions,
Yeah.
then we could just be with each other and appreciate what makes us unique, and not have to fight over who's right and who gets to be and who doesn't get to be, and
Yes.
all of this. That's in my view. I don't know that we ever can really have quote unquote equality if it's always viewed as a fight. And when more
Yeah.
of what do you think about that?
And I think we might have to redefine equality as well, because
Yeah.
what does that really mean if we are all in our own soul's journey? Are
Yep.
we now supposed to walk the same way? Are we now supposed to look the same way? There is an I think we have to question what we understand in terms of equality. And I know most talk about how we're treating each other, when it comes to laws, when it comes to income gaps, and what has been done in socially and politically to keep certain groups of people more under control, or underneath us, especially for me
Yeah.
being white. Even if I'm an immigrant, it doesn't take away that I'm white, and that most people wouldn't question me as immigrant right away unless I tell them to,
Mm-hmm.
or they hear me talk. But so there are just certain things that we have to become aware of. What do we fight for when we talk about equality? Because yet we all have different lessons to learn. So what is
Yeah.
the lesson within that setting that you're in right now, so that the overall goal that we all should have is the journey toward oneness and the understanding of it?
Yeah. Well, and now you're so. I think you probably are in the same school of thought on this, but I believe that we, before we're born into this body,
Mhm.
this particular body, uh, there's a soul contract. There's an agreement about those lessons that we're coming
Yes.
into the earth plane to learn, and that would include, therefore, in my case, being born as a brown man into a family of many different backgrounds, actually, but gets labeled as Mexican here in the United States,
Right.
Mexican American, being gay, being shorter than the average man, like all the things, right?
The topping on the cake.
Yeah. So
You have it all.
I have it all. Yeah. So I'm being an introvert, which
Mhm.
now I see as a positive thing, but used to think was a negative thing. But all those labels I chose this incarnation. And if that's
Yes.
true, then that can actually be empowering,
Yes.
because I chose to come here to experience life through these lenses. And I can either then be I can be a victim to that, or
Mhm.
I could use it, as it's what's so, and let's see what there is for me to learn. Like what do I get to do this time around? Uh, I think that you're in the same
Yes, I am.
boat.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Well, makes it easier to take things less personally, and
Yeah,
we're less reactive when it comes to how do people view us, but more so, hey, how can I uh, contribute within the setting that I'm in now to help people understand oneness because of what I chose as a soul
yeah.
to show up in. Yes.
I was a few weeks ago. I had a woman on the show. Her name's Gino Walker, and for those
Mhm.
of you who were there's a few people live. I can't tell who they are, but hey, shout out to all you guys watching us live. If you have questions, please ask, because you have an amazing person here who has lots of wisdom and knowledge. We'd love to have some questions for Isabel.
Yes.
But Gino Walker, um, is the music director at my spiritual center here, Universal Spirit Center in San Diego, and she's a black woman, and she is in our community. You can count on one hand how many non-white people there are, and I'm one of them.
Mm.
And as I was researching for her episode, I was watching lots of videos of her performing. She's an amazing singer. Her episode of the show is on my website, richawakenings.com, on the blog. Amazing conversation that we had. But it
Yeah.
really struck me that in all the videos, almost all the videos, she would be the only person of color in that space and on the stage. And the thought came to me like, wow, how does she deal with that?
Hmm.
Being a black woman in a sea of whiteness. And I had the thought, and then I actually felt bad about having the thought. And I took it off my list of questions for her because I thought, well, maybe what if she's offended? Or how could I ask that without being offensive?
Yeah.
Again, these connection issues, right?
Yeah.
And it came up naturally in the conversation. And I got to very easily ask her, and she said, you know what? Why I can stand on a stage and walk into a congregation of white people, is because I don't view myself as my color. I
Mhm.
walk everywhere I go as first and foremost a child of God. And when
Yes.
I do that, then I'm not caught up on will they like me because I'm black, or what if they are racist, or what if all those fears aren't present, because she's just operating in the truth, as you've said a few times. The truth of who
Yeah.
she is the truth of who we are, is we're a child of God, or the universe, or divine source, or whatever a person calls it, right? And that's what you're saying too. So I
It is true. You start to, um, well, the more you hold on to some of those things that you identify with, the labels, the more you try to defend them.
I
And the
love
more
that.
you think about it, and the more you get into a group of people, that's all that's in your head. And we know that everything is energy, so your thoughts are already going out there within an energetic setting, even if you're not aware of it. You trying to keep it to yourself, but it's not true. And then
Yeah.
people respond to that. You're literally asking for confirmation of your thoughts. And then you wonder why people respond exactly the way you just were afraid of that they would, because they're responding to your own vibration. And when you don't do that, it's, and people say, like, when I go on stage, it's one of them, she said to me, you demand the presence of the audience. And I
Mm.
do not have a strong voice. People actually I'm very soft spoken, but it seems to serve me well, because most of the time, even my husband, when he comes to engagements with me, he's like, you could have heard a needle drop on the floor in this entire theater. I realize it, but at first I thought I did something wrong or they don't like it. But I realized that because I come into a room without those judgments about myself, or I'm not holding myself to those labels, there is an openness. There's no wall there, and people feel drawn to that. It's fascinating to me.
Hmm. Well, you've used a word several times. It's really catching my attention about defend, or we
Hmm.
defend these labels
Yes.
because we I'm going to make stuff up right now, because we believe that we so believe that that's who we are. And I think, and you would know better as the sociologist, that humans, but by our very nature is to want to feel safe, to want to fit in, to be known. And so then
Yes.
these labels give us this sort of tangible thing to hang on to. And then when someone tries to question it or violate it or invalidate it,
Hmm.
then it's like they're ripping a part of us off that we're clinging to, even if that thing doesn't really serve us.
Yes, there's a game that we used to play growing up at youth group where everyone gets a little card with something on it. It might be like a group of animals or a part of a house or something, but you cannot tell anyone. And then the leader says one, two, three, and everyone has to scream really loud, or make the specific noise of the animal or something that is related to your title. And then this group has to find themselves and then sit on top of each other, and whoever has it first wins. And that reminds me what we do. We take those labels and then we scream it out there, so we will find the people that can relate to us, because when we find the people that relate to us and are like us and are part of our group, we
Yeah.
feel safe. The
Yeah.
game is actually a really perfect example of how
Yeah.
society works.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought of that. It just came to mind. I haven't played that in a very, very long time. But that's kind of how we do it. And then we hold on to it because we want to win within that group, even if it doesn't look like it. But I think sometimes we're so addicted to struggle. It's one of my other talks, finding my identity in struggle, that we look for it. Like there's so many subconscious beliefs around why someone struggles, because they deserve it, because the more we struggle, the better Christ followers we are. um, we struggle because the more we struggle, people see how hard we work, how much
Yeah.
we put our effort into things, when none of that has ever been part of a divine purpose or a divine plan. We are meant to just simply be in the flow of life and enjoy that journey, but we're making it so hard because our ego is so focused on, I will make sure that you understand that everything is separated.
Right.
And so
Right.
we go through our day and find that confirmation every single day. It's fascinating, but once you have the picture in your mind and you understand the concept of it, you cannot, like it will not leave you ever again. And then every time you encounter people, you question yourself, like, okay, how did I just relate to them? From what label? Can I let it go? Can I forgive myself from this place? Because really, in the documentary, we have one scene where I talk about that we're not fighting each other, we're fighting ourselves, because
Mm-hmm.
each person we encounter is a part of our soul's journey and therefore a part of who we are.
Mm. Mm-mm-mm. You're
Right.
making me think. Just recently, this week, I was taking a walk here in my neighborhood, and there was a man down the street, taller, bigger than me, and I had my phone in my left hand, which would have he would have walked by me on that side, and while he was far enough away, I caught myself uh, becoming fearful,
Hmm.
and switching my hand over here to my phone to the other side, just in case he was going to snatch it from me as he walked by.
Right.
These thoughts went through my head, and while I'm having the thoughts, I became embarrassed, especially because, of course, that happened the week of having this conversation with you.
Of course.
I got to see, like, where am I, fearful and judgmental, um, and I didn't put my phone in my pocket so that it wouldn't be so obvious to him that I was afraid, but I switched it, and
Nicely thought through. That was quite the
right,
strategy.
and that's it's insidious this way, right?
Yeah.
And of course nothing happened as he went by, but as I thought back about that, he was a brown man, I'm a brown man,
Hmm.
but I think we know what really came to the surface, which was not apparent in that moment, is such a deep seated fear because I'm gay
Mhm.
of other men who are going to immediately perceive that I'm gay and therefore make me a target, for to hurt me somehow.
Right.
And especially now that my hair is, this whatever color we're calling this today, I
No, those
stand out.
that's wise because I actually got to the point where no longer I'm allergic to hair color apparently, and so I have to grow my hair out too. So
Yeah.
we're in it together, and
Oh, well, it's
I'm
here's
still in my 30s, so we're good.
well, here's the thing. I actually bleached my hair.
Oh, maybe I should do that. Actually, I really like it. I don't mind it at all. We did have some blonde in there now, so when I have it open, you don't really see it. But now that I
Yeah,
have it up, you see a little
yeah.
bit more of it. Yeah.
Embrace your silver
Oh, I
fox.
will.
Yeah.
I don't see that as part of the journey too, where you're no longer label with the expectations or the where you no longer buy into the expectations, how you think you should look like, what you're supposed to do. I mean, I hear so many people that say, "Oh, you can't have gray hair in your 30s because then you look like you're in your 50s." Well, if I dress myself like I'm 50 as well, then yeah, maybe, but I don't
Yeah.
really feel 50. I actually feel like I'm more in my 20s. Um, but I can embrace it. And the more I can embrace it, the less people will say something about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this whole hair thing has been an interesting experiment because my hair is still very dark naturally, and by now I am 50. It should my dad's hair is totally white now. He's 71. He went salt and pepper. By this time, he was fully salt and pepper. So I've been
Oh, I already started in my early 20s.
Mine hasn't done it up here, so I thought, you know what? Let me just see what it would look like. And now
I really like it. It
I
looks really
forget.
great.
Thank you. I forget that it's there until someone looks at me like, "What?" Or I see myself in the mirror. But it's causing me to really reassess my thoughts about myself and in a different way. And I'm
Yes.
enjoying this experiment. So
Here's what I think with when it comes to perception as well, what we have to notice when we do notice things like that, like those judgments, what would be a more empowering way to relate to it? And how I started to do it is because um, even Covey already said that we're entering the age of wisdom. And
mm.
that just comes with it. That's just all the wisdom coming through. I mean,
Woo,
we
woo.
can't avoid that. So the wiser you are, the whiter you are. There we go.
And if it's not happening naturally, bleach your hair, people.
Exactly. We're just in it together.
Exactly. I feel very wise now.
Yeah.
So, we've alluded to your film quite a bit.
Mhm.
I'm going to play a clip that is from your website, thepowerofconnection.net. And I'll put that up on the screen, you guys, in just a minute so you can find this for yourself. But can you just say a couple of words about uh, what we're about to see?
Yes. I'm assuming you're talking about the trailer.
The trailer,
The
yes.
trailer, yes, for The Power of Connection. We are replaying a story that inspired the documentary when I first came to the US and I went on a few dates with a black guy. And there were just a lot of growing up in East Germany. There weren't many black people, to be honest. It was, again, under Russian or Soviet communism. And when I came here, there were just so many prejudice and thoughts and stories, but that were in my head. But with my heart, I couldn't relate to it. And so I started this war internally and I distanced myself from him. And so this entire story was really related to okay, we're taking the story and then we're going in a very visual, tangible way into the subconscious. We used a really beautiful home as a metaphor for the subconscious with the different rooms. And it's going to be really, really great. We've done quite some filming already and very, like I said, very tangible, very visual because I'm such a visual person. And then, yeah, so in the trailer, you will see how those thoughts come up in our subconscious and how that creates the division. But then asking ourselves, going through the process, what is actually possible if we were to take the responsibility for ourselves and be aware of each room in our subconscious and go through some of them and take
Mm.
the trash out.
Oh, Take the trash. I love
Take the trash out.
that.
We did
Okay.
shoot the scene 2 days ago.
Okay. This is exciting. So let me cue this up and we will watch the trailer for the documentary, The Power of Connection.
We live in a world where communication is instantaneous. Yet, if we look around, there's an epidemic of loneliness, anxiety, even suicide. We pass people every day, never knowing who they really are, and not knowing who cares to know us. The world grows increasingly divided. Instead of caring for each other, we've become afraid of each other. Afraid of being judged, yet afraid of being alone. We've created stories and narratives about people who are not like us and declare them as truth.
Who does she think she is?
Who is he?
Does she think she is better than me?
Should I worry for my safety?
Is she like all the other racist, white privileged, middle class know-it-alls?
I wonder if he has a record.
She's had all the advantages.
Is he part of a gang?
If she calls the cops, I'm screwed.
If I speak, will he threaten me? I can't.
What if there are more similarities between us than we thought? What if our differences made us more informed, more aware, more connected? What would it take to learn to trust? What are we giving up when we close each other out? Imagine a kinder, safer world. Imagine feeling understood. Imagine the possibilities if we could harness the power of connection.
It makes me slightly emotional. I'm so proud of the team and what we have accomplished so far. It's been quite a journey. I've never done a documentary, and it's just how it all came together was like, oh God, what did I get myself into?
Well, that I have chills, and I've watched that actually several times already, and that exchange that it depicts is very similar to the exchange I was just talking to you about.
Yes.
With seeing the man on the street here. So, why is this film important to you?
For the longest time, I have been coaching for the last 10 years, and I always felt I really belong on stage. And I waited for opportunities for other people to invite me and to say, hey, we love your message, let's come. And at one point, I was sitting here crying, and I said, I cannot wait for other people to allow me to speak. I have to figure something out that allows me to portray and to help me to embody that voice in a visual way. And I talked to my husband about it. And at first I just wanted to do something downtown, just a simple exercise with people. And then he looked at me and was like, well, why don't you turn that into a documentary? And I thought, okay, I need to sleep over that because I'm not a filmmaker. I have no clue how that all works. So why would I have to do that, right? Or why should I? And so I went to sleep, and I had this dream, and suddenly within the dream, most of the script came together. And I woke up this morning and I posted something online. I turned around, suddenly I had a team behind me with a videographer, a script writer, and a cinematographer. And everyone said, we love your idea. We're behind it. We want to do this with you. And I'm like, what? Like, this was a little fast, a little too fast. But I said yes to something that really scared the heck out of me, something that I have never done before and never imagined for myself doing ever. But it's such an incredible challenge for me now, because suddenly all the information I needed for filmmaking. If it was lawyers, certain rights, and how to film it, the language of film suddenly just came to me. Like I've almost done it before. And I was like, okay, this is definitely meant to be. And all of them volunteered their services, which is amazing, but I still at some point need to pay them because now we're getting into the stages where we really have to focus hard, and at some point they do have to pay their bills. I cannot let them go hungry because our goal is to have it done by June, and that's a pretty tight time frame, and that would require them to make this a priority. And because of that, we need to raise some funds to be able to also get some animators and illustrators on board, because that's what's going to include some illustrations, especially around spirituality and emotions. And there's just so much that goes with it. But so far, it's been such an incredible experience. Like I said, even watching the trailer makes me so emotional because I've never thought that I would even act. I'm totally horrible actress, but I had to do quite a few scenes because it's my story. We're using my superpower, as mentioned, which is I see everything in color, and depending on the frequency and the vibration, it changes. That color changes. So when I look at words, at numbers, at people, it's just like the heart center that can change according to what's going on within them and what they're sending out or what their soul is trying to communicate with them. And that has really carried the documentary in a very unique way, and how I can see the world, and how that has helped me to translate that for people who do not have that gift or have not discovered it for themselves, and how we can create a tangible way for them to have a similar experience like I can have with seeing people in color. So this documentary is going to be, I think, really, really great. Right now, we're trying to reach a few celebrities like Jim Carrey, Russell Brand, who would be awesome to see if they would jump on board to support the documentary, because they're on the same page with the message. It's definitely a challenge. It's definitely something I've never thought I would do, but it's something that really sets me on fire. And I'm a double Leo, so Sun, Moon, Leo, and Ascension Virgo. So I'm totally going for it.
Wow. So this is what this show is about here. The Divine Urge is, it's meant to show people, when you trust your intuition, when you trust yourself, even if you don't know how to trust yourself, when you just say, okay, and you create that space, that willingness, that little bit of willingness, then all the information and all the resources start to show up. And in your case, it's just like, whoop, there it is,
Yeah.
And that can happen for people at different speeds. Yours happened very quickly. And you kept saying yes.
I kept saying yes. And the thing is, when you work with people that volunteer for the work, you cannot set a deadline. You cannot push them because they do need to work their other projects, right? But every time we were talking about, okay, maybe we should take a year to finish it up, I always heard, you cannot delay it. You cannot delay it. This message needs to go out now, because now is the time for it. Yeah. If we wait another year, it may miss the mark in the way the collective energy is currently available for this documentary.
And what is your hope for the people who will see this film?
Our goal is to take it to different universities and colleges to do a screening tour almost with a Q&A. And what we want to do with the documentary is to invite people to start discussing the topic, to start a conversation. This is not I'll show you exactly how to do this, and this is what we're going to do to save the world. This is a conversation starter. What did you take away from this for yourself? What is something you can do specifically within your community that helps us to connect more on that deeper soul level without being afraid that someone is taking away our fictitious identity? So really starting the conversations, especially within younger generations. I have a few younger people working on this, and when they come to the filming, one of them, she said, I was listening and I had my eyes closed, and it just so resonates with my heart. I just sat there and I was saying to myself, yes, yes, yes. And that is what I love, because this is especially the generation that I want to reach with the documentary. Because they're in the space right now, willing to shift, willing to create something different than what they have been shown, and modeled by older generations. And yeah, so that's the goal, really starting the conversation and being open about it, giving people the space to say, hey, this is really what my judgment was right now. I am sorry. I didn't notice it. Now that I notice, I would really like to practice to do it differently and to imprint something different within my DNA than what we have done for so many years.
I love it. Thank you for thank you for doing it, even in the face of literally, I don't know how to do this. This is not what I went to school for. Right? Thank you for being open to the seed that your husband popped into your head.
Yes, he likes to do that every now and then. He's done it with my first book, and he's the one who keeps me grounded. He doesn't like to be in the face of everyone. He's just always working from the back office, and it's pretty good. It's awesome. I love it.
Beautiful to have that kind of support. I'm lucky to have similar kind of support with my partner Cody.
Yes.
So it's a gift. So I can't wait for the finished documentary to come out. And
me too.
I bet, yeah. And I just know it's gonna be a success when it's finally out. I know you'll keep me in the loop, because we should probably have you back on the show to talk about, especially when you do that tour and students are
responding. It will be awesome to see how they're responding to it and what it in the end will do for communities, and especially also for nations. I think that's really a big endeavor that we're going to. The first submission for film festivals that we want to try to get done is Heartland Film Festival. So who knows what comes from there?
Yes. Well, I'm seeing it as wildly successful because it has such an important message and conversation to start for us. And we're running towards the end of the show now. It always goes by so quickly, but I just want to quickly go back to the seeing in color. And for those of you who are watching this, it isn't just that Isabel sees things in color like we see it in color versus black and white. Synesthesia is what this is called. And you literally see you see color where other people don't see the color.
Yes. Medically, you would understand it as synesthesia. I actually experience it more as a spiritual gift. Like I said, because it did drive the message that I have now, and especially a documentary. Mm-hmm. But yes, what it does is, if I'm within my physical body and I don't pay much attention, I don't see it with my eyes. I really have to pay attention and to look at the person. So when I see the color, it's like a clothing item. It just kind of jumps out at me. I'm like, they're yellow or they're purple. I on purpose do not memorize what the specific meaning is for each color. I know it very generally. But when people ask me to really tune in with them, I receive messages that are connected to this color that I see around their heart center. Mm-hmm. And the heart center is usually like where the soul is trying to communicate something with us that for whatever reason our head can't really hear or just implement. And so this is really an incredible gift that has helped me a lot in seeing people differently than if I were to just look at their appearance.
Right.
And yeah, it's a powerful tool, and I've done it for many years with my clients. Or sometimes people just come, hey, do you have a message for me? And then I create a specific prayer for them, which is also very powerful, that is related to that color. And so far, I don't think I have been off very often. It doesn't mean that I am not, because I am human as well. And sometimes I'm in my head when people ask me something, and then alter it myself because I can do that too, because we all can. So it does take some knowing where I'm at in the space and can I really see that honestly.
Well, I'm not going to lie. Knowing this about you, I've had moments of, oh my God.
Yes, I'm starting to get used to. That's what I'm saying. I actually I really engage in embodied conversations and especially controversial conversations. I do not mind edging people on. If they never talk to me ever again, then that is fine for me. If it goes really southward, I can always leave the country.
Well, when we're not online, maybe I'll ask you what's showing up.
John Lee Dumas did it in his interview, and I was actually surprised that he wanted to answer because when I told him and he asked me what it means, suddenly his whole demeanor shifted, and I was like, "Whoa, now he's actually open to talking to me." It was a really good experience, especially with people who have a big following. So it can be scary, but like I said, usually I don't judge it. Like there's no
Yeah.
judgment from like this is just you're part of the journey that you're on, and that's just what it is. There's nothing bad about it or nothing you shouldn't feel that.
Yeah. All right. To be continued. And I do want to know. And because we don't have a lot of time left and we have a couple more things to get through, how can people stay in contact with you and find more information about the work that you do with transformation coaching, speaking, and of course the film?
Everything is packed on my website, isabelhunt.com. Like, yeah, you having it right there. People don't forget the D before the T. That would not take you to my website. But everything is there, from the link to the film, the social media links to my work. Pretty much everything that you need is in particular on this website, because I hate having to look for everything when someone tells me, yeah, look for this. I have separate websites for separate things, but everything is very central on my website.
Okay, so folks, please visit Isabel Hunt, HUNDT.com. And those of you who are only listening to this, it's ISABELHUNDT.com. And you will find everything that she has to offer there. And it's a beautiful website, by the way. I visited it more than once in preparation for talking to you today. So thank you so much. I have done some research about an essential oil that actually speaks even now. It fits in even more perfectly. One of the things I do is I am an essential oil educator, and I like to work with essential oils aside from the health benefits, but really from the energetic, or what I call the spiritual benefits of essential oils. And so the oil that came up is called marjoram. And let me talk
I
about that.
love marjoram.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about, there's a few different things, like cedarwood is the oil of community, and that's what I thought I would talk about. But I did some more looking and then discovered that marjoram, let me change this screen here so you can see it a little bit better. Marjoram, which most of us know as an herb in our kitchens, maybe, is not necessarily the sexiest sounding. It's not a citrus or a floral. It's like marjoram. But I have a book called The Emotions and Essential Oils, and marjoram is literally called. You have that too?
Yeah,
I love
a
this
similar
book.
one. Yes.
Yeah, it's called the oil of connection. Like there couldn't be a more direct correlation, and so. On the physical level, marjoram helps to support the nervous system. It has a very calming effect. It has the same chemical in it that lavender oil has, and most people know lavender as a calming agent. Well, marjoram has that same core constituent. It also supports the immune system, which is something that we all might want to be focusing on right now with all that's happening out there. Always a good idea, regardless of what's happening on the news or in the world. Supporting your immune system, why not create a healthy lifestyle than working on not being sick once you're sick? Anyways, that's a different topic. Also very soothing if you have cranky muscles and joints. But let's talk about the energetic benefits. So marjoram helps to take you energetically, right, from a frequency point of view. It takes you from doubting to a space of trust.
Hmm.
So it's
I
about,
love that.
yeah. So it's about progressing in our beliefs and our emotions, right? So moving from doubting to trusting, from distrusting to being emotionally open. And you talked a lot about the heart, and this is also considered one of the heart oils. On a physical level, it could be supportive for cardiovascular health, but energetically, it's a great oil to work with on your heart chakra and dissolving
That makes sense because
walls.
when I tune into it, I see the color green. Like marjoram always shows up green for me, whatever
Yeah.
I do. And so that makes sense because it's part of the heart chakra.
Yeah, yeah, and it's one that I don't really haven't really studied a lot about because it doesn't seem as exciting. But I'm glad that I listened to
Yeah.
intuition and not to my head,
Right.
because I meditated with it this morning, and I had a really profound experience. I put some on my heart chakra. I put a little bit here, and I started to tune into some of my spirit animals, and there was one in particular that I had just completely forgotten about. And doing this meditation, it resurfaced, and I thought, what? How could I forget about this important thing to me? And it didn't leave. I'm the one who forgot, and so it,
Right.
it literally brought back the connection to
I need to try that.
an animal that I've had a connection
Yeah.
with in the past that has been waiting for me to like wake up again. So also moving from a place of being aloof to being connected, right? So
There we
breaking
go.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot more to be said about the marjoram. But folks, I love to share. And if you are feeling drawn to this particular oil, make a comment below. Just write connection, and I'll know what that means. And I'll contact you through the Facebook and send you a sample of marjoram oil. And you can see how that works with your own spiritual practices. Okay.
Great.
So, by the way, please, if you haven't already, and you might be on it now, the Rich Awakenings Facebook page, you can find that easily on Facebook. Rich Awakenings, pop over there, like it, and every time that we go live and do this show, you'll be in the know. The notifications will get to you a little bit faster and easier that way. And on the Rich Awakenings website, on the blog, I turn these videos into really beautiful blog posts with show notes. The show notes are the nuggets, the golden nuggets that I pull out from each of these interviews. I make them bullet points so you can easily see what I think were some important things that were said. I share links that the guests have given us so you can find them and connect with them. That's all on the blog at Rich Awakenings. And lastly, if you don't know, I love to work with people to help them discover and tap into the gift that they have to share with the world. And I have worked with many, many clients over the years to help them really tap into their heart center, to uncover the gift, the purpose, the project, if you will, that they came onto this planet to do. Much, like Isabel is telling us about one of the projects that I know there's going to be more for her, but this is one of many. If that is something that you have been wanting to discover for yourself, then perhaps having a conversation with me could help you get to that place of discovery and then knowing what steps to take next. And you can book a complimentary discovery call with me on my website at richawakenings.com under the services section. Just pop onto there. You'll see it very clearly and click that button to find my schedule and book an appointment with me. I'd love to chat. Okay, Isabel,
Yes.
closing words. I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
For the people who are watching, listening, whatever, who also have the next amazing film or book or project or nonprofit or anything, whatever it is, right? The story that it's time for them to tell, but they're afraid or they don't know how. What piece of advice could you give to them right now?
Jump. Jump. I actually just sent out a newsletter yesterday where I was talking about what happens when your calling evolves, and it always is the F you. When you get to the place where you get so tired of waiting and just sitting and wondering, then you know that it's time for you to just say F you and just do it and see what happens. Because really, you can always go back, you can always hide if you really want to. There is a desk for you available if you have to crawl under
I love
or
that.
under your bed. But at least you can say, hey, I did it and I tried. I would not be where I'm at today if I would have at any point in my life given up. I mean, there's so much to my story that I haven't even told, from almost deportation to other things that didn't quite work out. And there are always people, why did you never give up? Because I have this strong, I just had this on my heart for so long that I just couldn't allow myself to give up. And so if there are people that have something like that boiling inside of them, just say it. Stand up right now, take a deep breath and say, F you, I'm going to do that no matter what it will bring. Like I said, I didn't, and I still don't have the budget to actually do this documentary, yet somehow it's coming together. We have almost most of the filming done. I have no idea how, but that is the trusting process. Just saying, I'm done. I just do that. I'm done waiting.
Yeah, I love it.
And it's worth it, no matter in any way. If it's a lesson or if it's really something that wows you, where I'm like, oh my gosh, I can actually trust the divine. That's interesting.
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love it. Jump. Just do it.
Just
I love
jump.
it. All right. Well, folks, next week we have coming up, actually, next week, the show is dark. I'm going to be in Phoenix, Arizona at a leadership training with doTERRA, the essential oil company that I work with. So there will be no show, but I will run a watch party with one of our previous episodes. So if you'll be able to see something that maybe you had missed or rewatch it if you already had watched. But the following week, which will be the 20th, the month will almost be over. My next guest is Kathy Molig, and Kathy is the executive director of the Trans Family Support Services. It's a nonprofit that has been doing tremendous work around the country, and it's going to be a very powerful conversation, and one that I know is going to be extremely educational to teach us how to understand and use the words correctly that refer to the transgender community. So you can tune in at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern on Friday, the 20th of March, to be a part of that conversation. And so, with that, we will say goodbye to Isabel. Thank you for being here. And to all of you who watch the show or listen to the show, thank you for being here. If you enjoyed this topic, please share the post with your peeps so they can get a dose of this love and this wisdom and see the clip of the trailer of the movie. Thank you, guys. Have a great rest of your day. And here's to your rich awakenings.